Welcome back. This is the morning show here on Signature TV. It's 8:29 a.m. in the morning of the 23rd of May 2025. Hope you're good out there. All right, so we are going to be talking in the next 25 minutes about cybercrime and the importance of it across boards and the application of it as well. Because again, I don't know if so many persons know about the existence of the Cybercrime Act of 2015. We have with us live in the studio, Dr. Edwin Arum is a legal practitioner. Good to have you. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good to have you. Thank you very much.
All right. What for you is the primary objectives of the Cybercrime Act of 2015, and how effective has it been used to cater to cyber-related offenses across Nigeria?
All right. Thank you very much for that question. Cyber Crimes Act originally was intended to be a savior to the numerous cyber offenses that have been going on in the country for quite some time. It's also good for us to know what cyber offenses are. They are just criminal activities that are perpetrated using the computer networks, or other related system with the intent to defraud or defame businesses or governments. So any illegal activity occasioned or perpetrated using the computer or the computer networks targeted at business, that's the financial aspect, targeted at the government, or even the reputation of individuals, we can call that a cyber crime. Now, before now, there have been several occasions of people defrauding others, like obtaining under false pretense, popularly known as 419, in the generations gone by, or about some decades ago. But now, people do not go about defrauding people physically. They just stay in the comfort of their homes to manipulate the computer systems. And this has been going on for some time. Sometimes somebody calls you on phone, claims to be who he or she is not, and tells you, please make a transfer. Sometimes you go to the POS machine to make a transfer, and after that transfer, you now see deductions from your account. Sometimes you are doing some transactions online thinking you are dealing with real people. You will know that you are dealing with some fraudsters. And because of the fact that many Nigerians are not so knowledgeable in these computer systems, they fall vulnerable to some of these smart people. And based on that, they lose money. So the government, in order to curtail this, decided that it is necessary to come by way of legislation to bring about a law that is all-encompassing. For instance, if you look at Chapter 3 of the Cyber Crimes Act, you will see several offenses that are covered as cyber crimes, even some things that people do not know about. If time permits, I can just run down some of those offenses, like computer-related forgery, fraud, even theft of electronic devices. Maybe somebody you are passing through or Holy Ghost, somebody picks up your phone. Even without any doing it, for the fact that the person has just stolen, it is not just theft or stealing under the law. It's also regarded as a cyber crime. Of course, we know cyber stalking. When people just come online to harass others using the internet, you might not have obtained money from them, but for the fact that you are stalking them using the computer system, it's already a cyber crime. Then we also have importation and fabrication of e-tools without going through the normal procedure, manipulation of ATM or POS terminals, and then electronic cards fraud, and several other things. Even child pornography is also captured as cybercrime. So the extent of this law is to make sure that some of these things are curtailed. However, there's a problem with implementation, because Nigeria is not devoid of laws. But our problem in Nigeria is when it comes to implementation of those laws, which is the second limb of the question you asked me. To what extent have these laws been used? I'll be very honest, the masses are yet to feel the import of these laws, because these cyber crimes are perpetrated every day, and they are coming up with new devices almost every time. Yesterday, I received a call, and the person sounded like a very old woman. I mean, yesterday. So I asked the person, what's his name? She said, I'm Mommy. And to the best of my knowledge, I know the voice of my mom. So whenever she calls me, I said, which of the mommies are you? She said, oh, don't you know me again? I said, no, help me to know you. By the time she saw that I was probing so much, the person dropped the call. Now, they would have engaged me in a conversation which would have led to probably a transfer of funds. Some others, very dangerous. You see a message pop up on your phone, and Nigerians naturally are impatient, because normally when a message comes up on your phone, you are supposed to check what the message is all about before you click. And some people, out of what is this thing coming up, they just click, and once you click, they've already gotten access to your phone. But the law has not been able to get into some of these nooks and crannies. So based on that, in the area of implementation, the masses are yet to feel the impact of this Cybercrimes Act.
The institution that is actually used, or that is saddled with the responsibility to curtail these particular excesses, do you think that they're doing their job to that extent? Because up until some years back, I think it was just recently that the EFCC started getting into, cyber, criminality. It wasn't in their modus operandi from the beginning. But because of the, the resurgence of some of these issues, it looks like the EFCC has been co-opted into that. But is there a specific organization,
okay, now,
apart from the EFCC, that we usually hear?
Well, the police is also part of it.
Okay.
In short, as a matter of fact, when you go through the act, every security outfit is responsible with making sure or curtailing Cybercrimes Act. Now, there's a problem. When you are implementing laws, there are two things you should ask yourself as a law enforcement agent. Am I implementing this law to make the nation better? Or am I implementing this law to also benefit from the crime? That will now help you to know the extent of implementation. The way the security outfits go to implement this law is very terrible, if I should use that word. Now, most police officers go after the Yahoo boys because they are the popular people know as the cybercrime perpetrators. But like I told you, cybercrime has a wide coverage. Not only the popular Yahoo boys, but several other things that are done also considered. Let me just focus on the Yahoo boy syndrome. Most times, police officers go after them. And once they get them, instead of going through the law as provided in sections 45, 47 of the Cybercrimes Act, they catch those boys and go for their phones. When they collect their phones, they go through their alerts. And there is a kind of money they will see. They will now force them to make transfers to them. Now, let me give you an experience one of my friends had. He was preparing to travel to, I think, Spain then. So he went to Lagos for his visa. So as he was coming back, he didn't take a flight. He went by road. And some police officers saw him, fresh boy. It's now a crime to be fresh. So then I said, oh, you come down, you look like a Yahoo boy. Not that you are, but you look like. Now, what is the parameter for determining who looks like a Yahoo boy or not? Of course, to the best of my knowledge, the law did not set that out.
Absolutely.
Collected his phone, and the money, of course, you know that when you want to travel, especially coming under the education system, there must be a specific amount that should be in your account for you to process your visa. Yeah. So they saw the money. They said, definitely you are a Yahoo boy. And they commanded the vehicle that he was in to keep moving back to Delta, where he came from. And they left him there. They were on his neck. They carried him in their vehicle. They went some distance. They came back. They did several things and say, are you transferring or are you not transferring to us? At the end, they made sure he transferred to their personal account the sum of 200,000 naira. Whereas this law said in section 49 that any proceeds recovered from cybercrime should go to two people. Number one, restitution to the persons that those monies were taken from. And when that is not possible, you restitute back to the coffers of the government. But the police officers restitute to their personal coffers. And that is why they are very diligent in running after Yahoo boys. Something happened a few days ago when they were pursuing a Yahoo boy and shooting, and they killed a secondary school boy in Ibadan. It's just a few days ago. Now, in a process of arrest, it's just because it's a bit different from what we are talking about, but there is a procedure for arrest under the Police Powers Act. It does not in any way require shooting as you are pursuing. Because when you are shooting and besides, sorry before I forget, section 45 of this Cybercrime Act, for you to search a person's house, search a person's device, you need a warrant from the court. Now, how many of those arrests that they do on the road, especially those Independence Louds axis and also that Liberty Estates axis, how many of those arrests do they do with a warrant? And if the warrant is not possible, the law provides that there should be a reasonable suspicion. And in law, there is what we call the reasonable man's test. What will a reasonable man, a normal man in this circumstance do in this particular time? And as a matter of fact, the police should understand that dreadlocks is a form of dressing that has not been criminalized in Nigeria. So, when a person decides to dress, I'm not trying to encourage irresponsibility in appearance. But to the best of my knowledge, wearing dread is not yet a crime in Nigeria. And police officers should go after criminal activities and not people that drive cars or that have iPhones or that carry dread, unless you can prove that those people have committed crimes. And surprisingly, most criminals or most suspects that have been paraded on TV, they don't wear dreads. They look clean, responsible. Most of those people that have been, I have never seen in the majority people with dreads being paraded as criminals. So the police needs to be reoriented. So answering your question, they have not really done what they ought to do in that respect.
Wow, interesting. So this cybercrime thing has been on for a while now, and like you mentioned, you said these things keep evolving. The peoples keep, evolving the new means of, making money. I'm just wondering, where is the place of Yahoo Plus in all of these things? Because some persons try to mix it up with tradition. When they bring in tradition and then say it's Yahoo Plus, they'll tie a red something on the system. Some they'll wear red to use a computer. That is what their Yahoo, godfather said to them that they should do.
Yes.
So you wonder where is the place of this? Is it the same thing, or is it totally different from this issue?
Okay, now Yahoo is Yahoo, but the plus aspect of it is the spirituality they now bring in. But to the best of my knowledge, the Nigerian law is yet to recognize spiritism or charms as powerful. Nigerian law is yet to recognize that. Let me quickly make a statement. There's a case called the case of Ikone and States. The man killed the stepmother because he believed that the woman was disturbing her with witchcraft. So when he came to court, he pleaded that the woman was oppressing me with witchcraft. And in defending myself, I decided to deal with her. Physically. The law said, Nigerian law does not in any way recognize witchcraft.
Wow.
Another similar case, when some masquerades molested a woman, and they brought the masquerades to court. And when they read out the charge and said, okay, masquerade, respond to the charge. And immediately he started humming, those masquerade sounds. The magistrate was like, I'm not here for this thing, and commanded the remand of the both with his mask to the prison. Why? The law does not recognize officially those spiritism. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. But as it is now, witchcraft and spiritual powers are yet to be captured under the Nigerian law. However, in a situation whereby a person has been linked to perpetrate or to advance cyber crimes using any means which might not have been captured, Nigerian law enforcement agents can still go ahead and arrest person. For instance, there's a popular man in Anambra State that was just arrested, which I believe you should be aware of it, that has done several publicities on social media, and based on that, he has aided several people. The law did not really say that because he's a spiritual man that they will not arrest him. The implications of his spirituality are the crimes that are happening. So based on those crimes, both those crimes and his spirituality were roped in.
Wow.
So Yahoo Plus is still the bringing in of spirituality, even though not expressly captured here.
Okay.
But once cybercrime have been committed, both the normal Yahoo, Yahoo Plus Plus, Yahoo Pro Max, all of them would be arrested.
Now, I mean, if you have a system, it's easy for you to jumping on those things. And I'm wondering, really, you must have some sort of skill to be able to practice Yahoo, whether Yahoo Plus or Yahoo Minus or whatever it is. It's not something you just wake up and start doing.
Yes.
Somebody must have to take you through it, how to do it. Why do you think most youths would rather go through that means rather than, having learned a skill, use it for positive impact for the society or even grow it? Because you can actually make a lot of money, by doing that ethically.
Okay. Now, the motivation in Yahoo and Yahoo Plus is higher than the motivation of getting a skill or going to school. Now, let me explain further. Now, for instance, I'm a lawyer of almost 14 years standing at the bar. And throughout my career for this, though 14 years is still a few years, as far as the law is, sorry, not 14, 13 years. It's still a few years compared to others in the profession. But within these years, I have grown gradually, a step at a time, a step at a time. But in Yahoo, you don't grow a step at a time. You happen just once. Somebody, let me give you an example. There is this little boy that lived with my grandmother. As at when I was doing my master's at Obafemi Awolowo University, he was still a very small boy, around primary 6. You can imagine somebody who was in primary 6 as at 2015, 2016, as at today, has several cars. Now, which skill did he learn that gave him that money within those short periods? So if he was 8 or 9 years then, by now he should be 18 years or 19 years. Ordinarily, he should be in his first year in the university or second year. Or he should still be in his master's house if he's learning a skill. But today he's having cars that an average civil servant might not drive throughout his career. So when other youths see such a little boy with such number of cars, with such number of monies to throw away, and such number of girls, you will now see the person, people will be like, whatever it will take for me to get in, I will get in. Because these are the things that excite the youth. But when you tell the person, go and write JAMB, considering what JAMB did to people a few days ago, go and do this, go and do that, and you now spend 5 years in the university, after which you start getting a job, they prefer, let me go the shorter route. Now, how do they learn what they do? In the street language, there's what we call the HK, the hustling kingdom. where some boys are gathered in a particular room or in a particular location. They might be there for months learning work, learning how to press. So after such months, they'll be trying their luck. Some of those amateur ones are the ones that are still learning the work. And you know, because the motivation is high, everybody puts in the whole effort in order to learn it at once. Unlike what is obtainable in the university. I'm a lecturer in the University of Nigeria. Sometimes when you are in class and you are teaching, you see that some people are just absent-minded. Some are on their phones because they feel whose school help in their own language. But when it comes to things like this, like the Yahuas we are talking about, and a person knows that if I'm able to learn this thing within the next 3 months of being in the hustling kingdom, in the HK, I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to enter the club, scatter everywhere, pay the hype man and all those things. The person puts his whole efforts in order to get it done. So they need skill and they get the skill. But because the motivation is high, they prefer to go that route instead of going through the area of skill and education.
Interesting. But again, there's beauty in work. You know, if there's usually a standoff or a standpoint, most of these Yahoo guys are always on the run. There's no peace of mind when you are a Yahoo boy, especially when they start investigating you, if you have all those things that you're talking about. But there's beauty when you have a process. You know, you take time and all. Yeah, you mentioned the motivation around it, but then again, is it worth it?
Okay, now you know, we must understand that you and I are coming from a different generation than most of the young ones doing that Yahoo. Some people of our age are still into it, but the people that are doing it are the younger ones. Now, the way we were raised is to know that there is dignity in labor, to enjoy the process, to go through routes and watch yourself grow. But these young ones are not raised that way. They were raised, or they are being raised in such a way that anywhere belle face na front, irrespective of whatever comes out of it. A lady once said, it is better to cry in a Lamborghini than to be at peace in a Volkswagen. Now, it is better, in their own understanding, let me be on the run. After all, I will find police something. Yes, they're on the run because they don't want to give. But knowing fully well that if they give, police will collect. They'll be like, let me do what I want to do. Get the money. If they chase me, I settle them. And then I will continue doing what I'm doing. So this generation was not raised, or is not being raised to value peace of mind. This generation is raised to value trauma, to value being on. In short, some of them enjoy being on the run. Some of them are happy to tell stories of how they outsmarted the police officers. It's their joy. It gives them that happiness. Now, for our generation, it's not worth it. Personally, I reject cases. There are cases that people bring to me. I evaluate the cases. I reject cases.
Why?
Especially when I know that those cases will not favor me, or goes against my conscience, or will not give me peace of mind. There was a case that they brought to me the other time involving some cultists. And having been in the university, I know how they operate. And in my mind, I was like, so I'll start doing this case, and his guys will now come to court. And I'll be, okay, is this lawyer that wants to send our man to prison? And then when I'm going, some people are stalking me. I said, no, please, go ahead. I don't want that. I've also had an opportunity of getting a case, a robbery case. And the case was so messy. I asked the young man, are you involved in this? He said yes. And for me to do that case, there must be some manipulations. And I didn't want anything that will give me headache. I told him, please, I can't handle your case. And after some pleadings, I said no. Not because of the fact that I didn't want the money. Because the money, everybody needs money. But the stress of doing that case, well, I don't want to go through that stress. That's because of my orientation. But we are living in an era where even parents mount pressure on their children. Don't you see this person's child? Don't you see that person's child? And parents don't even ask questions. During my days, I remember when I got my first phone. Now, when I mean first phone, the first phone I bought with my money, I was in first year in the university that day, that time. So, my sister wanted to talk to my dad, but my dad was not picking up. So, he now called me and told me to give the phone to my dad. So, I gave the phone to my dad. After my dad finished taking the call, he looked at the phone. He said, I did not buy this phone from you. So, I said, yes, that I bought it with my money. He was like, oh, you cannot afford a phone. He said, how much did you buy it? I bought that phone 6,000 naira then. It was a big issue. When I mean a big issue, the way my dad took it, I was now asking myself, did I do any other thing? Or is it just a phone? You wear a cloth. There are sometimes in school, your friend gives you a polo or something like that you like. And when you come home, my mom particularly, for the aspect of clothes, is my mom. My mom will be like, was I the one that bought this clothes? And he said, somebody gave me. He said, somebody gave you because so I cannot afford clothes for you. Return it. So my parents were so particular about how we make money. But in this generation, people are no longer particular. Do you know, if I tell you this, even though I'm not setting this as a standard, but till today, my parents are still interested in the type of business I do. Till today, my parents are still interested. Yes, they don't have that kind of control because I'm no longer under them, but they are still interested to be sure you are still doing the right things. And this is what this generation lacks. Right. And based on that, most of them, knowing fully well that their friends are mounting pressure on them, their parents are mounting pressure on them, they will do anything, even if it costs their peace, in order to be among.
So, in this case right now, the reason why these things have continued to fester is because the parents are not even doing the right thing.
No, they are not.
But beyond even not doing the right thing, they would even rather have a son that is driving a GLK, not even knowing what the source of the income is. As long as it is okay for them, they don't even mind. Definitely.
In short, a parent made a statement not too long ago. They're still around my area. So somebody said, Madam, hope you know that your boy is into fraud. The woman said, easy, so if it's easy, let another person go and do. So which means that she's priding in the fact that his son was able to do what is not easy to make. So it's no longer about the legality or the legitimacy of what the person is doing, but the fact that the boy is doing great and mighty things. So parents have, let me be very honest, parents are responsible for the killing of this generation. I was watching a video earlier this morning before I started coming. A teacher disciplined a child in school, and the parents came to the school to come and fight. During our time, the fact that they flogged you in school, my dad would be like, what happened? What did you do that they had to single you out to flog in school? Something happened, if I remember very well, that should be around 1994. I know I was still in primary school then. So I was waiting for my dad. My dad went to do some things that early that morning. So he came back late. So he took us to school late. So by the time he took us to school, they were already holding people that came late to school, flogging them. So immediately I saw that people were being flogged. I told my dad, they are flogging people. Oh. He said yes, that he can see that they are flogging people. Go, let them flog you your own. I was not like, but that he should come and talk to them so that they will not flog me. He said, go and collect your own. And he brought me down from his motorcycle and zoomed off. And I still went and collected my own. But it cannot happen in this dispensation. So parents are responsible. Parents don't do what they ought to do. And it's disheartening, because whatever we give to this generation is what they will pass to the next generation, and that generation will pass to the next generation, and that cycle continues. So it's still a wake-up call Because the more you allow, somebody said that the snakes you raise today will bite you tomorrow. So the more you are encouraging crime to continue, one day it will be your turn. And let me tell you one thing I believe in life, and which I have seen severally. What goes around comes around. Whatever, I'm a Christian, so some of the times I make reference to the Bible. One of the Bible passages I fear the most is Genesis chapter 8 verse 22. It says, as long as the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest time will never cease. So once there is still this earth, people will be sowing, people will be reaping. So in a situation whereby you are happy that people are being defrauded, people are crying and they are bringing the money back to you and you are doing odogu with it, a day will come when it will be your own turn to be defrauded. And those things you have built, a small person will just nip it in the bud and everything will just come down. And when that happens, you will now have a taste of the berry that you have been serving others. So parents should wait for the repercussions of what they are raising today. So it's a wake-up call. So I blame the parents and I also blame the law enforcement agents. Because let me tell you one thing, if this Cyber Crimes Act is well implemented, I tell you that these crimes, the effects of this crime will be felt, the effect of the reduction will be felt by the people. But once the security agents keep conniving with these young ones, and once parents keep encouraging these young ones, definitely we might not make a headway.
Do you have an understanding of how these things operate, how the security agencies actually even get their own tip-offs? Because every now and then we hear they raided this place and they captured person A, person B, person C, and they got exhibits, vehicles, laptops, blah blah blah. This news comes out every other week, as the case may be. How do they operate? Do they know? Do they know that some persons are in a particular location? I'm sure you are playing in that field. You understand what? How do they, go after these people and know where they are located? Do they have a device that assists them to track these people?
Okay. Well, Nigeria as at today, most of the police officers are not that equipped to have devices. However, they have informants, or people we call the popular whistleblowers.
Okay.
Now, some of those whistleblowers might be from within the HK.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because there are some times that probably two Yahoo boys get a deal. Maybe they are paid 100 million. And somebody wants to take 80 million for himself. And then maybe 2 or 3 other persons should now share the 20 million and the other feel cheated. They might be like, I will not eat the money. You will not eat the money. I will blow the whistle.
Really?
Yes.
It happens that way?
It happens. Then some people also meet the security agents themselves and say, please, there are some Yahoo boys around my area. The movement of those boys. Like there is one popular sound they use on social media. So those people will now go and buy armor. And most of the times, the police or the security agents might be like, okay, if we get something, we will give you. So people are also benefiting from the whistleblowing. Because some of those security agents recover huge amounts of money from these people and they tip the people that brought the deal, the agents.
Oh,
they
really?
give them their own cut. Yes. They give them their own cut.
Well, how do they know the person is a Yahoo boy?
Now
Except for the ones that you say they did the business together. Are they going to risk themselves to jail when you... Because if the person comes, the person is going to tell the story of how they got the money. Does it then mean that the person himself is also offering himself to be jailed?
The problem is how many of them go to jail. That's the problem. Because they know that these things will be settled at the police level. How many times have you followed a cybercrime case till judgment? It's difficult. Even the EFCC that they have now brought in, EFCC have not even done so much when it comes to the political cases that they started with. Talk more of these ones. So the person that is bringing it already knows that he's not going to jail. He already knows that once police comes, they will apprehend them, they will do the thing, they will scatter the money, he might even get his own court. So he does that. So he already knows he's not going to jail. So that's why he would be better to do that. Then some of them that might be afraid to talk to the police might talk to some people that will talk to the police. You don't know how many Nigerians behave. They will say, instead of me being cheated, let everybody go down. And that going down, they already know they won't go to jail, but let's scatter the money. You will not benefit, I will not benefit. And police will not benefit.
No, but again, even with that beneficial talk, if you go to the police or maybe you go to the EFCC, at the end of the day, if you say we're going by that standard, the money is going to be shared, and that money you think you got, you're still going to split it. So what's the idea behind even doing about? Well, I'm not really talking about. I don't want to go into that, but you're just giving us an example of how the police and EFCC, get to apprehend these people.
Yes.
But are there not better ways to apprehend these people? I mean, does it have to come to a point where somebody has already made the money, and then it's just for them to now start doing chasing? They'll now start trying to chase and hold, and they're waiting for somebody to bring information before they even move.
Okay, now, like you rightly said, there should be better ways. Unfortunately, Nigeria is yet to put in place its data system and its tracking system. If these systems are working, at the comfort of your office as a security agent, you can monitor some things. One of the things captured in the Cyber Crimes Act is when obstruction of transactions. There are sometimes you want to make a transfer to a particular person, and a Yahoo person might obstruct it and divert the money to another account. You might think you have transferred to a particular person, but the money has gotten. A good security outfit should be able to track that diversion and then question it and probe further. Now, this now requires training. Most of the people that are going after cyber criminals are not even trained. They don't even know what it takes. For instance, you cannot enforce a law you don't know, and you cannot be in a system and nip a system that you are not very conversant with. People that should go after cybercrime offenders should be people that are so deep and experienced in computer science or in the act of. So, but how many of our security agencies know about this? So, but when we train them, and when I'm talking about training, it doesn't mean, like for instance, the popular Hush Puppy. He defrauded even international organizations who are more experienced when it comes to cyber matters than Nigerians. But he was able to deal with them. So which means if those people could be dealt with, our own people should have more knowledge. It's when we now have that knowledge, have a very good tracking system, and also have a very good database. That is when we will be able to get some of these things. Now we started registering of SIM to make sure that people's information are on a SIM. But now there are other ways people now register SIM without putting their information. People now buy pre-registered SIM. So when they buy those SIM cards that have already been registered, they use it for any other thing. But I like what Airtel is doing now, because Airtel is now helping. Some of the times when some fraudsters want to call you, Airtel will now, there's a way they do it. Sometimes you see your phone, it will be giving you a red background, showing you that there is an alert that somebody is coming from the wrong side of the law to call you or to send you messages. And you'll be aware. Now, they are making good use of their system to track those calls that are not normal. So we should improve on the training of the law enforcement agents, provide them with materials, provide them with the technology, and also let them also have the will to start tracking these people. So when we do it that way, you must not necessarily wait for the person to pick, as they call it, before you go after the person to stop, because prevention is definitely better than cure.
Let's talk about the misuse of the act in itself. We understand that, even though the act is there, there's also a way that the law enforcement agencies would apply it, and it becomes like an invasion of somebody's privacy or some sort of embarrassment. How do you think that this act is misused by public officials?
Okay, the misuse of the act by public officials, I'll just say two things, but I'll start from the privacy that you spoke about. Now, as far as Nigeria is concerned, the major law upon which every other law stands is the 1999 Constitution. And Section 1 of that Constitution says that if any other law runs contrary to that Constitution or is inconsistent with the Constitution, that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be void. Now, that Constitution that stands supreme provided for privacy of people in section 37. Now, but most of the times when I'm reading section 37, I also read it along section 34 that spoke about dignity of human persons. Because when you invade a person's privacy, you are actually trampling down on that person's dignity. Because your dignity lies so much in the areas of you that are cordoned off. That's why in your bedroom, a visitor cannot come in there. So, in a situation whereby in implementing another law, you offend the Constitution, it's already a misuse of that law. That was why, like the place I spoke about earlier, that's section 45 of the Cyber Crimes Act. Let me quickly just read the first line of that section of 45. Just the first line. He said, a law enforcement officer may apply ex parte to a judge in chambers for the issuance of a warrant for the purpose of obtaining electronic evidence in a related crime investigation. You apply to a judge. Now, to make it faster, the court said ex parte, which means you don't need to inform the other person. And you can even meet a judge in chambers and obtain a warrant in order to do what? Obtain electronic what? Evidence. Permit me to read subsection 2 of that. It says, the judge may issue a warrant authorizing a law enforcement officer to A, enter and search any premises or place if within those place or conveyance an offense under this act is being committed. So which means you really need that warrant from a judge to authorize you to enter into a place to search. So it's an offense of the law and misuse of this act if you do not go through the law to obtain a warrant and you go on your own to go and arrest people. Offending of the law, invasion of people's privacy, going against the dignity of human persons. So there are other, the place I quoted earlier that says, the place I spoke about restitution, that is section 49, that spoke about compensation and restitution, that when monies are recovered, they should be paid back to the victim. So when, instead of paying it back to the victim, you now pay it into your private pocket, it's still a misuse of the act. Because they come under this act and say, oh, the act empowers us to get the Yahoo boys. But actually, they are now using the act to enrich themselves. Some people are using this act as a medium of vindictiveness. Maybe there is a boy that doesn't greet you in your neighborhood, or there is a boy that's insulted your mother. You'll be like, okay, I will deal with him. He's a Yahoo boy. Because I notice it almost every young boy they see on the road. Once that boy puts a good perfume, he's a Yahoo boy. And based on that, you go to pick the person up. So most of the times, people use this act like a bulldog or a police dog, or how they call it, to go after presumed enemies, to enrich themselves, or to even tarnish people's image. If you remember the definition I gave earlier on, that cyber crimes also target people's image. There are some people that just want to destroy your reputation, and they will come under this act, make an arrest which is irregular, and you know that when the EFCC without their red vest or the police comes to a neighborhood to pick up a young boy, everybody in the neighborhood will be like, oh, this boy is doing Yahoo. They just pick the person up, and then it destroys that person's image. Some of them even go to the extent of taking pictures of them and publishing on the internet. So anything that is done without following the original intendment of the act is a misuse of the act.
Wow. Wow. It's an interesting one. I mean, there are other aspects of this misusing, given that there are journalists and activists and critics of the government have been arrested under the guise of they are cyber stalking people. You know, they are doing all sorts of things, and I'm wondering to what extent. But I'm sure that we'll keep engaging these things because it's a topic that is evergreen. Maybe one of those days we'll discuss further about this other part of the misuse of the act. I want to say a very big thank you, sir, for coming. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're back after the short break. Do stay with us.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.